Now, back to Your Turn on 1330 WEBY, Northwest Florida's talk radio. The phone lines are open, so call in and join the conversation at 623-1330.
It's Freedom Friday. Thank you for rejoining us on Your Turn. Your host, Carl Gallups. So many people are so upset and concerned with Israel in the land, and that they are occupiers and they have no right to be there, and the poor Palestinian people. But today we're getting to the truth, and what we have established is that Israel is the only bona fide nation that has ever been in that land. And we followed them from coming out of Egypt and coming into the land and settling the land by tribes and being in the land for some 400 years. We have followed them thus far in this part of the program through King Saul, through King David, through King Solomon, through the civil war in Israel between the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom. So far we have followed the events of the northern kingdom being attacked by the Assyrian Empire, the major world empire of that day, roughly equivalent to modern day Iran. They were conquered, carried off into captivity. 586 BC, King Nebuchadnezzar, the Babylonian Empire, attacks the southern kingdom of Judah with its capital at Jerusalem. They attack, they destroy the city walls, they destroy Solomon's temple, they carry off the remaining tribes into captivity, into Babylon. The Bible records this. History records this. It's an undeniable fact. If there was no Israel, who did Babylon attack? Who did Nebuchadnezzar attack? What temple did they destroy? What city walls were destroyed? Why would they have to have a war? Why couldn't he just march in and take the land if there was no nation there? Of course there was. The nation of Israel. History goes on to record that the next empire on the world scene, the next major world superpower, was the Persian Empire. The Persians were a huge monolithic empire. They were a barbaric, huge war machine. The Persian Empire makes up what is roughly equivalent to Iran and Iraq. The Persian Empire swallowed up then all of the captives of Assyria and Babylon out of ancient Israel. But the Persians did something amazing and unique. They allowed the captives of Israel who were living in the land, they allowed them, if they wanted to return back to their homeland and to reestablish the city of Jerusalem and the temple worship at Jerusalem. Now, as amazing as that sounds, you might ask, why would they do that? Well, history records they didn't allow them to return to become an independent nation. Oh, no. The Jews living in Jerusalem, even those living there and rebuilding the temple and worshiping in the temple and practicing their Jewish culture and faith, they were still members of, citizens of the Persian Empire. They were subjects of the Persian Empire. They had to pay taxes to the kings of Persia. But Persia did this because their empire was so huge, so far-stretching, so large, the largest empire the world had ever known up until that day. And one of the ways of controlling the populations, one of the ways of keeping the peace, was to allow the people, the various ethnic groups living within the empire, to live as closely as possible to their original customs. And so this was a brilliant move on the part of the Persians, to allow the Jews living in the land who wanted to return back to roughly the land of Israel and Jerusalem and to rebuild its walls and to rebuild the temple. And so history records that this happens. The Bible records that this happens. Archaeology verifies that this happens. The Jews returned. Many of them returned. Some of them didn't. Many of them had assimilated themselves into the Assyrian culture, the Babylonian culture, and now the Persian culture. But many of them returned home. They returned to Jerusalem, and they rebuilt the temple walls, and they rebuilt the temple and the city walls, and they reestablished a form of temple worship. Now, the temple was never rebuilt to its original glory. Some of that would come along later under King Herod in New Testament days under the Roman Empire. But right now under the Persian Empire, history records that they went back and settled the land. Now, the next great empire on the world scene was the Greek Empire. The Persians and the Greeks were always fighting. The Persians were never able to completely conquer them, or were never able to conquer them. But the Greeks, under Alexander the Great, eventually conquered the mighty and the sprawling Persian Empire. After Alexander the Great died, the kingdom was split into 4 dynasties. One of the dynasties, the Seleucid dynasty, controlled the area of Jerusalem. And under one of its leaders, Antiochus Epiphanes, a great revolt, a Jewish revolt, took place called the Maccabean Revolt, or it's sometimes known as the Hasmonean Revolt, or the Hasmonean Dynasty. That took place under the Greek Empire. And then in 63 BC, a Roman general by the name of Pompey looked across the Mediterranean and saw the unrest and saw an opportunity to conquer. And the mighty Roman Empire was now on the rise. And the mighty Roman Empire sailed across the Mediterranean and laid waste to the area of Jerusalem. And now Jerusalem and the Hebrews and the known world was now under the dominance and control of the Roman Empire. And the New Testament days were born. Stay tuned for more.